do you think character aging could affect MMO storytelling? In WoW, I think 6 to 8 years have passed in the game. That's a fun thing. So I'm going to put it this way. For the player character, no, because you never want to tell the player character their own fantasy. You don't want to acknowledge that too much. The way to do that is by acknowledging it in the world. So how do our cities change? How does that change? How does the progression of the world change? And the aging of characters. So it's that thing, it works really well in WoW with Anduin because we get to actually see him grow up with the game. I'd hope that there's characters like Talia, and a few of those characters are like coming to maturity as they go through the game. I think that's probably the better way to do it. Or just stuff with Sarfang where they're like, he's just really fucking tired.
Yeah, he's an old man now.
He's tired, like.
Yeah, I like that. I think the World of Warcraft has a very specific problem with that, and I think most fantasy games will have that, where Tyranda's chilling at like 10,000 years young, and a year passes doesn't matter to her, but then you get to Anduin and it's like 5 years has passed. He's no longer 13. He's now 18, and he's got long hair and he looks kind of cool. You're like, nice one, but it's like that you kind of run into problems, especially with the player character, where if you're playing a Night Elf or a Draenei, you don't reasonably age.
Oh yeah, true.
And then you play a human, and like, what are you going to do? Get the beard to start to grey on someone who's been playing for 15 years? That's kind of the problem. You can't really. You kind of have to just sort of.
No, dude, I've got it. Every year your character ages, they increase your GCD by 0.1 seconds. Bam! We've got it. We fixed the game.
All it takes is 60 years of playing World of Warcraft, and that's as slow as FF. Before you go any further, I'm just going to stop and say, I see what you're talking about, chat. I am paying attention. There is a lot of... I don't know if I shared it with you, but I have a fairly long written post on why World of Warcraft... Say why World of Warcraft isn't weeb. Of course it's not. Why FF14 isn't actually weeb, despite being Japanese. People are talking about that. Maybe I'll post that afterwards, because...
Yeah, Izakaya reviewers. That's weeb.
Ishizoku.
Why say Izakaya? That's a different thing.
That's a pub.
That's a pub.
Yeah, and Izakaya.
Pub reviewers.
Izakaya reviewers would be way better.
Let's go! All right, off to Japan. See you later.
Yep.
Okay, that will be the name of our series, Izakaya Reviewers.
All right. Oh, class.
Great.
Love it.
Imagine a best of the worst format where you just go to a pub with your friends. You film B-roll in the pub, and then you have a big chat afterwards.
That'd be class.
That'd
be class.
So speaking of class, we got one from E. Rebull, who said,
Nice.
Should WoW take a page from Yoshi P and drop a Dalmund on Azeroth and make it new? Now,
Dalmud.
so that people... Dalmud? Dalmud, right.
Yeah.
So that people understand Dalmud from the perspective of a complete idiot who doesn't know anything,
Yep.
me, Dalmud is the moon.
Not the moon.
Okay, so
a moon.
Dalmud is a moon.
Yep.
And what happened in the Final Fantasy, in the world of Eorzea,
the world is actually called the Highland.
Yeah, Eorzea is a continent, right?
Eorzea is the continent, yeah.
But basically what happened is a dragon came out of the moon for some reason. I'm not 100% sure yet. And there was a big calamity. And that's why A Realm Reborn is called A Realm Reborn. So your sort of game dev context here is FF14 comes out, game's basically fucked. Yoshi P's like, hey there, Squeenix, this is a company-wide disaster. We need to fix this or Final Fantasy will be so badly hurt as a brand. Let's go.
And he was right.
And he was right. They went and they basically, they probably reused a lot of content and did a lot of remixing, but they took, the game was not the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
So they unbuilt the Lego set, they sat down, they made a plan, they rebuilt the Lego set.
Yeah.
So what Rebuild is really saying here is, should WoW unbuild its Lego set and put the pieces back together?
Yep. That's weird. I feel like it can't. In the same way FF did, because FF was literally, this game is just out. We need to pull it off the market in a year and a couple months, because it's just wrecking everything. No one's super attached to it. But for World of Warcraft to start afresh, and I feel like someone from Blizzard maybe spoke about this before, or maybe I've completely made this up in my head. But the idea of like carrying over all that collection stuff, if you just say, right, World of Warcraft is ending service, please play World of Warcraft 2, the sheer amount of people you're going to lose in that transitionary period means it's the riskiest thing you could do. And then you would have to either pay like millions to build up WoW 2 while WoW was running, or you just kind of have to put WoW on hiatus until WoW 2 comes out.
Yeah.
Because you would need to have massive rewards for people, you need to figure out some way to bring that collection over. But also, you know, how many people have hundreds of mounts?
Well, I'd also say, I mean, World of Warcraft 2 happens. Suddenly 120 million people with World of Warcraft accounts are going, oh shit! So, I think that might actually work. But it would be a big bet, and it would be worrisome. It would be worrisome that going on. In my head, what's ideal is in my head, what's ideal is a bit of a hybrid, where basically now they would need a lot more staff and like engineering and stuff, I would imagine, because in my head, I'd be very happy for Blizzard to say, okay, the next expansion is really the last expansion in the way that we usually do them. And we've actually built up enough extra staff and extra things that the expansion after this one, we're going to do a whole bunch of really, really large changes, really large engineering investments into the game, things like that. And then maybe that's an expansion that shakes up the format. Maybe that's the expansion that can actually give us player housing, actual farming, you know, those things that maybe will be quite technically hard to pull off. So I think they just need a way to carve out like 4 years and then probably do an expansion in between and then do something like that. So basically I'm saying don't relaunch the game or do anything like that, but perhaps consider, thinking about an expansion and internally calling it WoW 2, but it's not WoW 2.
Yeah.
That's what's in my head.